capital, destination capital of the world. And I'm asking, can't we do that here? So can we not Lagosify Nigeria? And it's happening. You remember the lake concept where Lagos State collaborated with Kebbi State to produce rice. They extended their farm routes because Lagos lacks sufficient landmass for agriculture. And so there's that collaboration. So we need more of such collaboration.
For African countries
countries, even states within African countries, like states in Nigeria.
Now, I'm also interested in the fact that the person saying, sometimes it's not what was said, but who said it and where it was said. And so in this case, I'm wondering, for the vice president to be saying this at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where does that put us? It means that we are, could it mean, let me ask it as a question, could it mean that we're beginning to recognize what we mean, what we are, where we are in the grand scheme of things as a country, when we talk about our positioning as a country? You
remember that in the last dispensation we had a professor. We've never been lacking in ideas. We've never been lacking in intentions. I liked the last vice president because he knew how to say so much, and you wonder, what did he say? And then apparently there's the gap in political will. So between having a good intention, between having an idea and implementing it, there's so much that plays out, especially politics and interests and tribe and religion and all that. And so a lot is not implemented. So the vice president, if you hear him talk, is well schooled. I think he's an accountant or so, very intelligent person. True. But he was governor. And sometimes when you want to judge by antecedents, you wonder, this much, what did you do?
Oh. Yeah. Anyways, he believes that African nations, particularly Nigeria, are yet to harness the huge potential of the outsourcing industries like other countries. And I hope that him recognizing it and him saying it here means that they have something up their sleeve.
So what we expect is a clear promissory note.
Okay.
You directly say, in fact, in Nigeria, it's our prime agenda for 2024. Don't just say Africans are yet to. We have been yet to for so many years. You remember Sonny Okoson's song?
Yeah.
After so many years of independence, we're still finding how to start. So one problem we have in Nigeria is we keep finding how to start. The old administration comes saying we criticize whatever it is. We start afresh. We keep starting afresh. We have the idea. So let's get down to the business of implementation of these ideas.
Now, it's talking figures and business owners are listening. I also find that this helps them to know if they were wondering whether this administration is ready for such partnerships. It means that if you have ideas or if you're able to, I've had someone here who has access to the German and most European nations and those who are interested in investing in Nigeria. So that means if you have such people, go ahead and find your way around, because perhaps this administration is open to such partnerships. Since he said it.
I was in in 2019, I was in the Iranian hospital, Dubai, right? Yeah. For some reason, right? And I liked what I saw. And I wondered why this wasn't happening in Nigeria. So
why are we not replicating it?
Yeah, I reached out to the general manager of the hospital, and he said to me, "We want to come to Nigeria.
See?
But there's a caveat." What's the caveat, sir? He said, Iran. The fact that there's Iran, the radar of the world will be on. So you go to your country, you speak to a few persons. Some governors have come here, they've expressed wish, Bauchi State, Abuja, and all that. So we're ready to come, but it's your nation willing to receive us. And this was a few months after some shipment from Iran was stopped at our borders. Okay, so the politics of that should also be in consideration, which is why you can't just pull every kind of investment you want to pull over. It's
so those factors will always be there, and we need to actually start learning to look beyond all of this.
Yeah, so we need to start with the low-hanging fruits. Which ones are easy? So people have been pulling businesses over, schools, shops. ShopRite, for example, I don't want to hold.
We can't call brand names, but we understand
supermarkets and all of that.
Yes.
So there are possibilities.
But then they are leaving. We have some that are leaving. We've had conversations on this show where we see that a lot of them are also multinationals
because
are leaving.
of the ease of doing business index.
So we need to fix all of that.
We need to fix a lot of the economics of doing business. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next story, which talks about. Okay, let me take this one before we get to the indigenous story. This one is about stakeholders, what they have to say. Registration, of course, is going on about registering oil marketers at the Dangote refinery. For them to be saying that, it means that production should have started, and maybe products will be available very soon, because they said this week that 7 major marketers have already registered with Dangote refinery, and stakeholders, we talked to stakeholders, and they think it's a good thing, but then they think it should be extended to independent marketers as well, because monopoly may set in if you're giving to only major marketers. Okay, major marketers are usually the big, very, very big filling stations, and then the independent marketers are usually the ones that own only one filling station in the entire country or something. So being able to open it up, I agree, would help monopoly. What would help deal with any issues of monopoly? What do you think?
Yeah, it's fine. Free enterprise, allow free participation, free play. Even though we know the business of mago in Nigeria, interests, whose interests, somebody calling the shots and asking, but then to start with, I'm happy. I was listening to a show on your station yesterday where a certain man made a detailed, survey of what is going on currently at the Dangote refinery. And it was some green light, because it seems like, okay, very soon some of the aviation issues would have been reduced, especially with the Jet A1. He's begun with AG already. So the availability first and then the supply. Okay, so demand is just there. It's hot up there. Okay, so how many players? More players will be interested in the game of play when they see the ease of operation. But when there are too many bottlenecks, it scares everyone away.
Always. Now, the final story before we get into the big topic of the day is one that you heard, where traders went to Government House to talk about the reopening of the marijuana market. And the case is still, we are not sure whether the case in the court has been withdrawn or not. But I know that the governor had promised that the market will be open by the end of this month. Where are we with it? Should these markets be handed back to the original owners, people who had it before the fire in 2013? Or should it be given to new people? Should there be a ballot done and whoever picks, guess what? Now, I've looked at that story since the case has been on, which was since 2019, when the market was rebuilt by the past administration. And I kept asking, was it rebuilt to look the exact same way before the fire, or was it rebuilt to have more shops accommodated? Maybe if we had like 20 shops, maybe now we have 120. If that's the case, whatever is the case should determine what should play out. What do you think?
Expansion. So if you had accommodation for 500 shoppers, okay, or shop owners, and you see that the demand now is 2,000, it's just to create an additional space, okay? So if you're rebuilding an old market, I saw that in the old market, not everywhere was developed. Now you're rebuilding. What is the demand like? You can forestall issues like this. It shows that, wow, there's commerce. And you want to drive more commerce. And you want to put an end to shopping on the streets and all that. You want to organize things.
Yeah.
So there's a census of shop owners and business operators within the premises. Okay, so make the comparison and then
set a standard. I also think you should set a standard. Yeah. So whoever meets the standard gets
the space. So whether balloting,
so it cannot be business as usual.
Everybody should be accommodated. Not everybody in the real world can be accommodated in 1 mile one, but you could have mile 1 phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. But you can't tell me that from inception we just have a few markets in River State. I mean, how old is River State? More than 50 years.
Yeah.
So it shows the demand for commercial activities.
Why
don't you spread your tentacles?
So it also means we need more markets. We need
more markets.
Okay. Now another thing I also realize is that this is a relief for business owners, I also think, because it's been shut down for over 10 years. And now they're about to reopen it. It means more activities, and the distribution channels of brands are going to also be expanded, because if they were stopping at the phase 1 or phase 2, they're going to now have to enter phase 3, which is actually bigger. The last time I checked, I don't know if I'm correct there, but it means that more activities and more options for people, and as
more
well.
Government revenue, because the business of government would run on finance.
Yeah.
And how else do you want to drive finance?
Yes.
It's to make the place appealing. Everyone comes in. In fact, you should liberalize the market thing. I like the fact that different LGs are beginning to establish markets. And so what you need to do is to create definition for the markets. Everything you shouldn't find everything in one place.
Thank
right?
you.
So why don't you have an animal market somewhere in the bush if you feel this is this, or you have a cassava market,
mechanic village,
like we have, yeah, everything should be distributed, no centralization anymore. Yeah, just to boost that, so you won't have everything plugging around one environment.
So if it's food market, let it be food market.
You know where you're
like
going
like
to.
oil mill market. I know that there are about 2 other markets that kind of found a way to attach themselves to that market.
Today you have a food supplies market, even in oil mill. Oil mill used to be known for second-hand clothing.
But
right now they sell everything
market.
else.
There's food market.
And they have one day. So a place like oil mill could be extended beyond one day, maybe 2 days, 3 days, based on demand.
All right. No, let's get to the big story, which are rather the big topic of the day. Market Watch is over. Time for Insider Tips. And on Insider Tips today, we're looking at the business of education. We're asking, where do we draw the line? With the stories of certificate racketeering and degree mills, it's obvious that those who invest in businesses want their money back. So what is it that we can do to balance it? We're going to have this conversation right after this break. Stay tuned.
Nigeria Info. Right back after this.
Oil and gas, Forex.
Here is the second segment of the show. We just finished Market Watch, where we looked at interesting stories happening in the world of business and what it means for you. And now it's time to look at Insider Tips. And on the show today, we're talking about, we're looking at the business of education. Those who, whose business is around the education sector, what they've been doing with it, especially after we heard stories of certificate racketeering, people getting certificate after 6 months, haba, and then the craze for it, and the fact that a lot has actually been going on beyond the one that happened when it comes to the basic education, the secondary and the primary school, RIEC exams, and all of what the business of education. I mean, JAMB registration just started on Monday, and business is booming for a lot of people already for that one. So much to talk about. I have a guest with me, by the way. I have an education consultant joining me. He has wealth of knowledge and experience when it comes to conversations of this nature. I'm talking Sir Ikechi Nwogu. Thank you again for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And so let's start with this. What do you make of the current, when it comes to the business of education in Nigeria? What was it like right now, currently?
It seems pretty much like an all-comers affair. I'll tell you why. I think a lot of that is owed to the below par standard of delivery of the government schools. So government should set the standards and define the pace and define direction. But then you look at some of what, before you register schools in Port Harcourt, for example, there are stipulated requirements.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, your laboratory should be this, classroom size that, spacing, painting, and all that. And then you go to the government schools. We've got the inspectorate division, we've got up to their own standards. And that's the first step to compromise. Because, what confidence do you have to drive policy when you yourself are not keeping to policy? That's the first step to compromise. And then everybody that just feels they have the money, the resources to jump into this industry, maybe as some interventionist arrangement just comes in and they throw it in. But the problem we should be looking at is how the business of education could reconcile to some deliberate future. Does Nigeria have a future? What will the present crop of school children, maybe those in their 20s, just within their work life, they have 40 years. If I'm 20, 60 years, I have 40 years. So over that time frame, what will the world be looking at? And so education should be pointed towards the future. It's not just a business. Education should be like a social response, a response to societal demands.
Now, let's stay with the business side of it, because, I got to make money by investing this thing, right? If I set up a school and I put in 20 million, I should get my money back.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a social service, but I should get my money back. But how do we, like you said, maintain the standard? So let's look at the various business strategies, business growth strategies adopted by education investors in Nigeria. What do you think? Yeah,
so in the first place, I don't know what school you want to build, what standard school you want to build with 20 million naira. Because it's expensive.
It's more than that, right?
It's much more
so
than that.
So that's a lot of money.
But then it's a lot. So we've had people who began their schools in their parlors. Some have begun their schools in some, community town hall, what the
under a tree and
all of that. But there's a vision. There's a growth path. You see one man who's just so passionate about teaching young children, and he gathers them every afternoon. Hey, stop lurking around, stop roaming the streets, come, let me teach you. And then, the interest grows. The passion with which he delivers that social value grows to such an extent that he graduates from that tree to, come use this this small space, the community meeting hut. And then he grows from there. He gathers some money. He attaches something. Cheap schooling, low cost schooling, but affordable. There's a concept called affordable schools. And then we drive affordability. You mustn't pay fees in terms. You could pay fees weekly or monthly. So in some communities all over the world, you could have as little as 5,000 naira. And you have 5,000 naira every month times 3. That's 15,000 naira. But you see, when 15,000 naira is called, not everyone can afford it. That's obviously not a highbrow school. But you look at your environment and you say, I'm here to solve a need. That's the business of education. But you see, it's more of sacrifice. You know what teachers to recruit. You know those who are willing to work in that. You don't recruit someone with an expectation of 200,000, 500,000. Because, of course, it's not in the city. It's in some community. But you're offering value. You're delivering knowledge. So there should be a balance of this. Now, that doesn't cost you 200 million. But when you come to some GRA, you want to buy land. Even the land alone. How many plots of land
or
do
rent
you...
a building? I think what we find
or
is
rent
that
a building.
Yes.
They rent and then do some modification. So that could cost you some 50, 60, 70 million naira. And we're calling figures now. And how many can afford it? So you have to be some sort of elitist, of the elitist scale to be able to afford 70 million, 50 million. But it's a good start. And you start. But how quickly or how patient will you be towards recovering your returns on investment, ROI? So the desperation now is what drives proprietors to all sorts
and sometimes it's not even your money, it's like a consortium of investors came together.
3 brothers, a family, or 3 friends, a community. There are some schools that are owned by some foreign communities. The Lebanese community, some churches, some stakeholders. So the church could say, this is primarily 50% stakes come from the church, but members can also come in. So it could be communal. What is important is the interest And beyond the interest, what's the motive? What's the driving vision? Because if we knew this from way back, if you're setting up a business for the sole purpose of making money, you will never make enough money. But if you're setting up a business for the purpose of driving value, you'll make much more money. Because your passion is revealed. People get to read your intents somehow. Okay, they get to read why you're doing this. You're innovating. You're ideating. You're sitting over and saying, okay, let's do this. You're analyzing. You sit over the last WAEC results or the last JAMB results, and you see the performances. You assess the performances of your children, and you do some tweaking. As adjustments, what else can we do? But when you are all about money, the truth of the matter is that it leads to a lot of malpractice. I'll tell you how. There are schools in Port Harcourt today with all sorts of frames. We've got ECOMOG. So there's the WAEC exam or the public exam, and then you have co-sharing of ideas. You could blend some smart children with some not so smart children, and there's that shared copying. You have your results, and
that's a drop in standard from what you're saying.
Of course, that's why we're raising the class of students, the class of scholars. I mean, it's appalling that Nigeria has had exposure to education from the 60s. I like to say that sometime in the 70s, Nigerian education was ranked 6th best in the world.
So we've experienced quality education. So why has it continued to drop yearly, like year by year? It just kept dropping, and it keeps dropping. There's some things
of quality.
I mean, I find myself sometimes interviewing people maybe for internship or something, and even ask them to write. Some people are afraid of writing. Some people cannot write about themselves.
No confidence.
So now, they can't write comprehension. That's like primary
school. Can we explore generations a little, right? Generations, or we call it dispensations. I mean, from the days of our grandfathers. Okay, so most of our grandfathers, people of my age, right? Most of our grandfathers were taught by the white man. So the white man came in, churches, church school, and all that. They taught our grandfathers. And then our grandfathers, a few of them, most of them were not even willing to go to school. I remember those days, the teachers would go to your houses, and two hefty boys would carry you by the hands and by the legs, flogging you to school. There was a lot of reluctance. Edu penetration wasn't as it is today. Then they gave birth to our fathers. A lot of our fathers today are the professors you see. A lot of them had the profit of foreign schooling, scholarships, available scholarships, government interest, government participation, and then those professors gave birth to us. And the question is, how many of them were able to still relate with the same standard? A lot of them were not really interested in the business of education. Only a handful of them would look at our school books, look at our notes. And so, government school had dropped in standard. Back in the days of our fathers, government schools were prime. You would rather send, how many private schools did we have? If you look at the oldest private schools in Port Harcourt, you'll see some of them 45 years, 50 years. They were set up by risk takers at the time. Private schools were not a thing, even when we were in primary school.
Yes, I was going to say that. I'm not old. And yes, when I went to primary and
they weren't school, 18.
Yes.
They weren't 18.
Yes.
It was government schools. Yes. They had standards. They had
much competition just to get into those schools.
So much competition. And at some point, you hear that inspectors are coming. Everywhere is cleaned up, environmental sanitation and all that. Then once upon a time, a health minister came to our school. Right, and then we had planted flowers, everything. We're excited. Yes, that was when they were launching primary healthcare in the 80s. I can't forget that, Professor Ransom Kuti. The excitement. Then there were supervisory services. Okay, the inspectorate divisions were funded and all that. But you check this, pretty much that was within the military era. And so I think at some point things began to wane when politics stepped in. From
after democracy,
after
we gained
democracy and all that, 99. You discover that we now had people who were core politicians and not technocrats, and so they were more interested in the business of winning the next elections than in the business of governance. So you only have a handful of people here and there who will probably build a few fine buildings to match up with some of the private school standards, but then the business of sustaining that glory is lacking, and the new administration comes in with a different idea and all of that. So
it appears there was a deregulation in the private education sector that happened.
Yes.
Like, how do I explain? Informal deregulation of the education.
Informal deregulation, informal
And
proliferation.
then it became
of
the
this.
all-commerce affair you talked about.
You know, there were statistics. There was something I was reading that said by 2015, education would die in Nigeria. Education will cease to exist.
So that was when it was opened up.
It was opened up, and you know, the passion. They had seen the successes from the foremost private schools in around town, and then they felt, okay, wow, okay. And you know, in Nigeria we have a very strong "I better pass my neighbor" mentality.
Exactly.
And so if Choma can do it, me too. Me and Choma were mates now. I have more money than her. I can also do it, but Choma is doing it with passion. Am I doing it? Am I extending the same passion? So there's compromise. Choma just bought a car. I can also buy. You take a peep at the school next door and you see what they are doing, and you come and there's a lot of copycatting
without understanding.
without adopting the passion. It's not the same. It's not the same.
What has that done to us currently? When you look at all you just analyzed, what has that done to the education as we have it currently?
There's a lot of compromise. Now, compromise is not a local word in Nigeria. It's English, right? It shows that it exists everywhere. But then that's where government comes in to standardize platforms. So there's a common curriculum. Is the curriculum being implemented, irrespective of school fees? But today, the mentality of, I'll use Port Harcourt, for example.
So answer that question. Is the curriculum being implemented irrespective of school fees?
Coverage, 100% no. It varies from school to school.
Why? People pay a lot of money.
No supervision, and nobody cares. Nobody's asking questions. We've got PTAs in schools. What kinds of conversations are
people
they having?
People pay 5 zeros, 6 zeros, and yet the curriculum is not implemented.
No, you check. I'll say two things right now. Go down memory lane and you'll realize that most of the governors, presidents that Nigeria has raised have been from the public schools. So where lies the private schools? Now you also look at the last 3-4 years, okay, and then the performances in UTME and the rest of them. You'll be amazed that with all the glam and glory, you have names drawn from local schools, public schools, hitting the best JAMB score, hitting the best YX score.
Well, let's be fair. The big schools do not write JAMB. They usually do A-level exams.
Not all of them. Some of them write JAMB. I know a lot of the big schools that write JAMB. Okay, it's a 360-degree thing. Forget the sugar coating of Cambridge and all of that. You are in some base, okay? And that's where the PTA comes in. Parents should ask questions. I'm in Nigeria. What's wrong with my child schooling in Nigeria?
But those parents already do not plan to put their children in those
the
Nigerian universities.
No, they don't even have a plan. We're talking about intentionality in parenting, and how many parents are intentional? An intentional parent who ask questions. You don't just enroll your child in a school because we have fine paintings and fine coloration
and in teachers that speak so well.
There are standards. There's a concept called the complete school perspective. Okay, and then there are standards: classroom size, classroom paintings. I go to some schools and you see rainbow colors in the classroom. There's something white painting and light does to the mind. The psychology of learning. Okay, but parents don't care about this. As long as I heard the way they were singing the national anthem. It's a good school. It's next door.
And
I don't want to
working.
go far. Yeah, the AC is working. Okay. You tell a child how much do you pay, and the parent says we pay 50,000. Because say waiting then go teach there because the perception is faulty. We feel because it's cheap, then they won't teach anything.
I see you saying that parents are also the problem. The reason why this standard
they are
dropped.
a major contribution to the crisis we have.
Tell
because
me more.
Parents should call to question. There are basic factors. I like to talk about a certain perspective, the making of the 7-star student. Okay, and there are multiple factors that contribute to excellence. Okay, so we have government input. Government contributes policy. Government defines, curriculum and all that. Government says this is what we want to adopt. It's in the design. Government determines approval, whatever. Okay? Then you have the private sector. The private sector is like the motivator. They come and say, okay, we've adopted the school. So there's this adopt a school formula. We're going to computerize all the SS3 classes. The private sector must participate. Multinational companies, private sectors with a passion. They can't run a school, but they can support existing schools. They're important. They're a factor. And when there is increased private sector participation, you discover that there's going to be grace and glory introduced into schools. We've also got parental input. Parents must ask questions. Don't just send your children to school. When they come back, do you check through their notes? Do you see what they studied? Do you check out for grammatical errors? Mathematics questions, were they properly solved? You don't care. You don't even care if they are. I'm not saying you should do their homework for them. But participatory parenting is sitting over with your children once in a while and getting a sense of what they study in school. So you can make decisions. You are the president of your home. You should make policy decisions. Oh, no. I'm not getting what I want from this school. I want to take the child out. This is way before the exams. You don't wait until the almighty exams to take that decision.
Now, Ikechi, let's slow down. Let's look at the parents again. When you say not getting in line with, I don't know, they want
ignorance,
the glitz and glam, and then the school doesn't have it, and then they prefer to go to schools that have all of the glitz and glam, where they do prom and not necessarily what you are actually looking for.
So from all the glitz and glam, what is the end value? At the end of the day, I said something. Go back to our presidents and governors. How many of them enjoy the glitz and glam? I mean, the biggest ambition of the average Nigerian is either to be a CEO or a head of government or head of state or something.
Actually, celebrity that they want to be. They do not want to be personality. They want to be celebrity. Celebrities are celebrated whether they are dumb or not.
Celebrities are celebrated, but they're not dumb. I don't believe in the concept of dumbness. Okay, so I may be dumb in terms of the law.
Yes.
But I may be smart in mathematics.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so everyone, we have multiple intelligences. Everyone is a different kind of smart.
Yeah, true.
You're very smart in the media job you're doing. I'm not going to contest that. But let's go to the sports field. I'll beat you.
Are you sure? Because I also presented sports at some point.
Oh, good. I'm very athletic. Let's go to mathematics. Okay. I'm good. I love mathematics. Yeah. I love numbers.
And I stay away from it.
Oh, you stay away from it. So everyone is a different kind of. So if you get to, it's like the fish and the monkey. If you get the fish to the tree, the fish is dumb. Okay,
now I agree with you. And why I agree with you, let me bring it to the context I was trying to refer to. We have reality shows now that intentionally make influencers out of people. And so those people end up being celebrated. And it's usually not about their intellect or what school they went to or all of that. So let's bring it back to the conversation of parents wanting their kids to be in a place so that they can interact with some kind of people, the elite perhaps. I know people who save a lot of money just so that their children can go to the schools that of the governor attends or that of any of the top people, and can give them access. Is a door opener for certain people. I mean, when you call PTA, whether it's offline or online, we're going to all be in the same room. You get what I'm trying to say? And that's usually how they make those decisions. And sometimes they are the ones that put the pressure on the schools to come up to a certain level, so that and that if it benefits the schools, they allow it. And shouldn't that be one of the key reasons why these qualities continue to drop?
So it's called success according to money, right? I could be successful without being very wealthy, but today society has been over monetized. True. And so there's that sense of competition, unhealthy competition. So, there are cases that I've witnessed where you come with your G-Wagon and I come, maybe that day my car is bad or something. I bring my children to school in some tricycle. And then the parent in the G-Wagon marches down to the school. What's he doing here? What are these children doing here? Don't you have class in your school? So schools now have that class definition. Okay.
So there's a wide gap.
There's a wide gap, okay? So I may not... what is important is I can afford the fees. I might even be doing better than your child in the same school, but they don't care about that.
Which is usually the case.
They go to the proprietors and influence the school fees. Why don't you raise the bar? So people like this are cut off, based on strata. And so these are poor value perceptions. And nobody is really looking about quality of learning, quality of teaching, end result. So you pay 5 million naira, 3 million naira, okay, 1 million naira every year for second, third term. But at the end of the day, after 18 years of life, from pre-nursery, nursery, the first 18 years of your life, your child cannot make smart 5 A's, 6 A's at the end of WAEC. In fact, in a lot of cases today, the parents extend, the hand to even registering them in 2 centers. So they sit over in one center, and then somebody else sits over in another special center. And that's why you see children schooling in Port Harcourt, but when it's time for the big exams, they are registering in special centers in the villages, in the rural areas. Okay, and then it's sad to note that the exam bodies have noticed these things, but everybody wants the money. So once you give someone a tip, he looks the other way, and then results come. Sometimes the results are seized, sometimes the results are released. But all that matters is my child made 9 A's, 8 A's. Oh, my child has gained an admission. That's why you can get into schools. You see a child with 8 A's, 6 A's, but he can scarcely spell his name.
And some of them drop out even if you take them abroad because they can't keep up.
They can't keep up. Something about abroad, okay? The system should be studied as well. The system has a way of accommodating you and slowing down the pace of learning. The learning standards are not the same.
Okay.
So in Nigeria, there's a lot of fire brigade, okay? The strike has just been called off, and so we have 1 more month. So we don't care how you do it.
They rush the calendar.
Yeah, we just rush the calendar. We have breached everything, and you see students doing it. But when they go abroad, there's ease. So that's why you see students who are not doing so exceptionally in Nigerian schools going abroad, and they are topping the class.
All right, Ikechi, it's time to open the phone lines and have this conversation with you listening right now. I would like to get your thoughts. Yes, the phone lines are officially open now. 0817-923-0002 is a number to call if you have thoughts regarding the business of education and where you think we should draw the line. Of course, Ikechi has said a lot currently, and so much. I don't know if you're the one shocked at the realities of the fact that parents are also looking to do class when it comes to education, and that benefits those who invest in these things. 0817-923-0003 is also another number that you can call, and of course the WhatsApp number 0809-030-6416. I'm going to take that number again and I kind of slow down just in case you haven't called before. I encourage you to call today. 0817-923-0002 is the number that you can call to get your thoughts in today. Of course, we are also on Facebook. We're live on Facebook actually at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. That's Facebook. And on X, that's Twitter at Nigeria Info PH. And then on YouTube, we're also live at Nigeria Info as well. And then you can drop your messages there. I'll get to read them in a bit. And before we go back to Ikechi to tell us what exactly we can do to help fix this. How can we ensure that investors in the education sector make money and do not compromise our standards? What must be done? We're going to come to that in a bit. But first, let's see the comments that we have here that I can read. Let me see. Where is WhatsApp? I'm seeing. Okay. Lara, if you can hear me, please come in here to the studio. Let me see what's happening here. Okay, Ikechi, let's see. What can we do? How can we ensure that the pursuit of profits does not compromise the quality and integrity of education?
Increased standards. So the first thing government has done is to say, this is the template for you to set up a school. Minimum number of plots of land, land size. Okay, and then we say, okay, this is the minimum classroom size. This is the minimum teacher to pupil ratio per class, okay, and then this is the minimum standard of infrastructure. We don't want leaking roofs. We don't want this, okay. We're not going to approve you if you don't have this, but we'll give you room to grow, right? All fingers are not equal. So when those standards are set, the inspectorate division comes from time to time, periodically, to come supervise, to ensure that yes, this is happening. You remember those days when we were in school, on some big days, we have supervisors coming from the Ministry of Education. They come in, they stand outside, and they listen to what is being taught. So teachers will be of their best acts. I know most of those days they dress very well. Those things are not happening anymore. So it's like a free day for everyone. Everyone is doing what seems good. So government has to step up to the game of participation, because government has a vision of what kind of future Nigeria wants. So that's deliberate learning, deliberate education. But today we've lost that sense, and where that is lost, trust me, everyone will do whatever seems fitting to him.
Now that's because when you were mentioning the issues, we realized that almost all stakeholders have had something to do with it, and we mentioned government wasn't just the only ones who have contributed to where we are right now. How about the schools themselves? What should be done? That's those who are school owners. What should school owners do?
Yeah,
to balance
owners. There's an instruction. There's a requirement on every school's board. There should be someone from government. Someone from the Ministry of Education that sits over the board and guides. But the question is, how many of those people are actually invited to board meetings? And how many of them actually would attend the school's board sessions to guide? And then how many of those schools board visitors actually take the message back home to say, wow, there was a gap? Because envelopes have exchanged hands, so they may not really be as objective as they ought to be, and that's compromise in the sense.
Okay, so let's take a call now. I have God Knows.
What about this?
Hello, God Knows. Good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Figures.
Yeah, it's all about Summit Secondary School rulemaking.
Did I hear you? I didn't get what you said.
I said I want to make a report about a school.
Okay. Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on.
I said the rate of expo in that school is making children no longer learn in the school.
And that's a public school, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Noted. Thank you, God Knows, for calling.
Okay.
All right. So the question is, what do you think? Where can we draw the line between trying to make profits in this investing in education and also ensuring that the standard is upheld? How do we ensure? I mean, the last call I just mentioned, practically what we're talking about here, dropping standards, that reality is there. So how do we ensure that we have that balance? So they have to make money, but then how can we ensure that the standard doesn't drop? How can we where do we draw the line? And that's the conversation we've been having. What is your thoughts? What do you think? 0817-923-0002 is the number to call. You can also call 0817-923-0009. And then there's also 0817-923-0007. That's the number that you can call to join the conversation right here. As we wrap up now, Ikechi, what is it that parents can do to ensure that schools that they put their kids in, the standards, yes, they pay reasonably? I mean, what do parents have any role? I mean, you talked about the fact that they have so much they can do, deliberate parenting. How about the side of the money? What happens then?
Everybody who can afford any sum wants to place his child in that school. The ultimate goal, ideally, shouldn't be about sending your children abroad. The ultimate goal is building a great nation. Okay, why don't we build the kinds of schools that someday even people abroad would want to come in? I was at the airport once. I was actually going to the UK, and I met this man. And he's resident in the UK. He's a very strong influence in the Diaspora Commission. And he had his daughter with him. And, Oga, what are you doing here? He said he does this. This is his daughter. She schools in Owerri. In one school in Owerri. He's Igbo. And he wants to ensure that she has that exposure. She's never been in Nigeria, save for education. So you have people who live in London and their children school here. And then every term, at the end of every term, he comes, he picks her up himself because she's very fragile, very frail girl. And he takes her back until the next term and all that. So there are a lot of Nigerians who do that in Lagos and everywhere. That's participation. So the Nigerian schools are not a write-off. The Nigerian curriculum system is not the problem. Okay, yeah, because we need to review what we have. Sometimes we have them say British education, we have Norwegian, American. This some of those things could be a splash of ignorance, a way to excite the Nigerian parent. Okay, yeah, because if you look at it, I mean, you want to teach French in your school. Where does that lie with the British education system? So why can't we look at the Nigerian curriculum, look at the Nigerian education system, rejig the Nigerian education system, and create strength? Because it will shock you to know that Nigeria has a very strong mathematical component, but the delivery is where the problem is. So why don't you teach what is in the curriculum and then let the children go outside and exhale? Beat the Indians, beat the Chinese, because we've got smart children.
We do.
We've got smart brains. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually where we wrap up. Thank you so much, Ikechi Nwogu, for coming in. So much to say when it comes to education. It's a very interesting conversation we've had here today. And I do hope that one or two has been picked, especially if you're a school owner. That is important that we do that balance. Okay, yes, balance your book, but also ensure that the standard isn't dropped. If you're going to be doing WAEC in your school, please do not drop the standard. It's important that we produce kids who can help solve problems, who have critical problem solving skills, critical
analytical thinking,
yes,
skills,
and all of the
thinking skills,
skills that are needed to build a great nation. That's what we're talking about. And we're going to see you again next week. 2 p.m. is the time for Talking Figures. We're going to talk again. And Rivers Today is up next. And after that, we have Kalada coming for Hard Facts. My name is Choma Iziwafo. And stay tuned.